Hi, in today's video I'm going to be having a look at Firejail and how you can sandbox Firefox and also set Firefox be put into a different network namespace. So what you can do is have a split VPN connection and set particular applications to go over the VPN. So we can set Firefox to be sandboxed and either to go out our regular connection or over our VPN. The other thing I'm going to be having a look at is how you can get magnet links to work within Firejail Firefox, because there's an issue with actually running scripts to launch magnet links in a particular client. So first of all, what I'm going to do is come across and open Firefox normally and show you that by default it's got read-write access to your home folder, and it can see everything in the root directory. So you can see my home directory. If I click here, you can see you can see all of this stuff. So what we want to do is prevent that, and we're going to do that by running Firejail. So first of all, what we need to do is install Firejail and the Firejail profiles. The Firejail profiles are profiles for different applications, so that Firejail can sandbox them. So first of all, we're going to run sudo apt install Firejail-profiles to install all the applications. And then after that, what we need to do is actually edit the Firejail config file and change restricted network from yes to no, and that's so that we can use Firejail with the dash net ns option to put a particular application into a different network namespace. So after we've installed Firejail, what we're going to do is edit the config file. So I'm just using vi in this instance, but sudo vi etc firejail.config, and what we're looking for is restricted network. So restricted restricted network. So by default this is going to be set to restricted network yes. What we need to do is change that to restricted network no, and that's going to let us use the net ns option to set a particular application to go into a different network namespace. So after we've done that, what we can do is run Firejail. So what I'm going to do is actually create some desktop files so that when I run my application launcher and open Firefox, it's going to open Firefox with Firejail, and you can see here now this is restricted and I can only see the downloads folder. If I come up, yeah, I can actually still see all of this. So that might be something to look into as well, how you can prevent Firefox open dialog windows from showing all of that. But basically it will hide everything in your home directory from Firefox. So what I'm going to do is hang on, come across here, show you how to create the desktop files, and also how to create a desktop file to put Firefox in a different application namespace. So this is the regular desktop file, and if I just search for exec, what you can see here is this is the command that's going to be run when I run Firefox from my application launcher. So it's user bin Firejail, and we're giving the --name option so we can name the sandbox Firefox, caps drop all, ccomp Firefox and Firefox %u, and that's sort of like the URL. And there's also a second and third exec block of code in the desktop file that you need to alter as well, for new window and new private window. So you can see here, this is the same, but it's launching Firefox with the -new window option, and right at the bottom you've got private window here. So that's basically the regular desktop file. Now what I'm going to do is have a look at the NS version. Basically what this is the same thing, but it's got this --net-ns option equals VPN. Basically what that is that's a function that we enabled by changing restricted network to no, and that allows us to put Firefox into a different network namespace. So I've created a network namespace called VPN when I run my VPN script, and it puts the VPN into a separate network namespace, so I can basically put applications either through my regular connection or through the VPN. So what I'm going to do now is just come across and launch a VPN and show you how we can put the application into a different network namespace using Rofi to launch the launch Firefox. So sudo VPN, the authentication file. Okay, so that's creating the VPN connection. So if I launch Firefox here, you can see I've got two Firefox entries, Firefox and Firefox VPN connection. So if I launch Firefox here and go to, well, I don't want to do what's my IP and show you my regular IP address, but this is the regular Firefox. So for instance, I could demonstrate this by trying to go to a site that's blocked, RARBG, and you can see, why is that loading up? Normally blocked, weird. But if I launch Firefox VPN, okay, and then go to what's my IP, it should show different IP address when it comes through. Okay, yeah. So that's the IP address, and what I can also do is what I'm going to do now is launch transmission and put it into this network namespace, so it's sending all the traffic over the VPN. And then what I'm going to do is show you how you can get magnet links to work for within Firejailed Firefox. So what I'm going to do is just launch transmission. So I've got a script that I showed you in a previous video that launches the transmission-daemon in the VPN network namespace I created. So transmission. What I'm going to do now is just come across to my notes. Okay, so this is a site that lets you check your torrent IP address, and it's actually also got a magnet link. So that's the other thing I wanted to show you. In Firefox, if I come into the settings, when you launch an application, it's going to ask you what you want to open that application with, a particular type of link. So you can see here magnet, and what it's doing is it's using a script called magnet add that I created. So if I click this here, allow this site to open magnet links, should come up here. Okay, and you can see what this is doing is it's saying tracker returned an error, but this is basically just something that you can use to check your torrent IP address. So you can see the torrent IP address here, 192.170.252, whatever, corresponds to Firefox's IP address here. So you can see they're both running over the VPN. And you can see that when I click the magnet link, when you click a magnet link on different sites, first of all, you get pop-ups if you've not done it before saying, do you want to allow this link to open, this site to open a magnet link, and you click OK, and it will prompt you to use the default program that you've created to open magnet links. And basically what happened was I was using, when I first started using Firejail, when I click magnet links, they wouldn't work. Basically, what you've got is you've got two things. You've got if you've got a GUI application to download torrents like Qubit torrent or transmission-daemon and GTK, they'll create desktop files that show up, like Qubit torrent there, and actually you can also create a script that you put in your bin directory to use transmission-daemon, add a magnet link. And what I found was that the GUI applications would launch from within Firejail. So when you clicked a link here, and if you've got it set to open Qubit torrent, it would open Qubit torrent with the torrent link. If you were running a script, it wouldn't work. So what I found was, if I just come back across, open terminal, what I had was a script in my bin directory called magnet add, which I've removed from here now. And what I had was Firefox. In the general settings here, you can select, different types and content types and what to do, how Firefox should open them. And what you do is click this, and you can then select to use another script. So I was selecting the script in my bin directory in my home, and by default that would be Firejail wouldn't allow that, so I created a whitelist to allow that script, but it still wouldn't work. So what I found was actually putting scripts in your bin directory. It didn't work with Firejail. So if you have a script that launches magnet links in your home bin directory, it wouldn't work with Firejail even if you whitelisted that directory or that script. So what I found was you have to put the script in user local bin. So what I've got here is this magnet add script. So you can see this is a basic script here, and all it does is call transmission remote add, and this is basically anything that's been passed to the script. So that basically takes a magnet link and then sends it to transmission, which will then show up here. And if you don't have, if you put the script in your local bin directory, it doesn't work. But if you put it in your user local bin directory, it does work. Now, another thing is that when you're sort of debugging this, obviously you can't see stuff in your local bin directory here, but as I said, you can whitelist other directories you want to have show up. So what I'm going to do is come across to the terminal and show you one where the desktop files go. So user share applications, and you can see here I've got these Firefox and Firefox netns.desktop, and those are the files that launch Firefox in your application launcher. So you can see you've got Firefox, Firefox VPN connection, and I'll just come back across here. Just come back across to this Firejail. So where is it? So what you have is Firefox, the regular Firefox here, and the name corresponds to the name here. So this is the regular desktop entry. So what happens is you've got, let me just come across, I think it's user share applications. Yeah, so if you have a look in user share applications, you'll see all the desktop files that are installed for different applications on the system, and there's this Firefox.desktop file. So basically what I did was copied that file, Firefox.desktop, to the desktop, and then we'll come back across here, and then basically changed it. So I created, this is the default one here, and if I just come across and go exec, you can see by default it's just going to launch Firefox. So what I did was basically took that file and changed it, as I showed you before, to use Firejail. And then what you do is you put that in your local share, your .local share applications folder, and this file will then override the one installed in user share applications. So you won't have 3 versions of Firefox showing up. You'll just have one for the regular Firefox and one for Firefox over the VPN connection. So that's the, shifting back and forth a bit, local share applications. So that's where you put the Firefox desktop, and then we create another one called, like, you know, Firefox NS or VPN or whatever. And basically the difference in that one is, come across here and go to the exec. In this one, what we're doing is we're giving it a different sandbox, a different name, and calling it Firefox dash netns. And then when using this dash netns option equals VPN, which is the name of the network namespace I created for the VPN. And then we launch Firefox. So those are the desktop launchers, basically. And as I said, we've got transmission here working. I haven't managed to get transmission working with Firejail actually properly. But you can see here, this shows up when I click the magnet link. You see it's working. That should come up and show the IP address. And what I'll do is I'll come across and get a link for a torrent. And this is a public domain torrent. Night Living Dead 68 in the public domain. So I just want to show you that this works. So if I click the link there, after a second or two, it's going to come up here. And as I said, that gave me really issues trying to get this to work with transmission-daemon and the web UI. And the issue was, as I said, having the magnet link script in my bin directory in my home, and putting that script in user local bin actually got it to work properly. So you can see here this is loading up, and I'll just wait till it kicks in just to show you it's actually working. You can see here, yeah. So that's actually getting transmission to work, and also getting it to be in the VPN network namespace. And this is a site I showed you in a previous video as well, where you can check your torrent IP, so that you can see that it actually corresponds to the IP address of this in the browser. So the other thing I was going to mention was actually Apparmor. So you can actually use Apparmor to sandbox Firefox as well. It's more sort of like blacklisting, listing directories, and Apparmor works at the kernel level, whereas Firejail works in sort of user land level, basically. And the way this works is you have different profiles for different applications with different rules about what part of the file system they can access, and those profiles can then call other profiles. So the way you do this with Apparmor is you have to basically remove a symbolic link to actually enable the profile. So it's not really very intuitive to use this. So I won't go through and actually do this, but I'll sort of run through the steps and what some of the issues are. So you basically remove a symbolic link to enable Apparmor for a particular application, and then after you've done that, you have to reload that profile basically with this apparmor parser command and the path to the profile, and then what you do is you then actually have to put the profile into a different mode, like you have in force or complain, and complain will basically just run normally and log issues to a log file, whereas enforce will enforce the policy. And you can, after you've basically enforced the profile, what you can do is check the status with sudo aa status. You can also put the profile into complain mode, so sudo aa complain and the path to the profile. The other thing I found out is how you disable a profile. So when you want to disable a profile, what you actually have to do is recreate the symbolic link in etc apparmor.d disable, and basically that disables the profile. And then once you've disabled it, what you have to do is remove the profile listing from the database. Now, the other thing you can do is actually force a profile into a different namespace. So that's basically the same as using Firejail to put a particular application into a different network namespace. And the way you do that is running sudo apparmor_parser -n, and then the name of the namespace, and then -r and the path to the profile. So, for instance, to do the same thing that I just showed you with Firejail with Apparmor, we'd run sudo apparmor_parser -n, and the network namespace I've got is VPN -a, and then the path to the profile. That should be, I think that should be, that's a typo, I think that should be A. And basically you can also remove a profile from the database. So if you've set Apparmor to put an application into a different network namespace and you want to remove that profile from the database, you have to also use the -n option here, and -R and then the profile to remove. Now, the issue with this Firefox Apparmor profile, if I just come across, so what you can see here is it includes all these other profiles down here. And what you'll see if I scroll down is it's got some rules about how it can access the file system, and it's, as you can see here, it's not terribly intuitive to read or get your head around. But there's a section down here, if I keep scrolling, about what it can access, and you can see here default profile allows downloads and uploads from public. So in this configuration file, if you look at it, you think, okay, it's going to blacklist everything apart from the public and downloads directory in my home folder. But what happens is it also includes other files. Abstractions. Then you've got ubuntu-browsers. So it basically includes another file, which then includes another file, .d user files. So eventually what happens is the main Firefox file includes this other profile in etc. apparmor.d abstractions ubuntu-browsers-d .d user files. And basically, as you can see here up at the top, allow read to all files in the user DAC has access to, and write access to all the files basically owned by the user in home. So this included file overrides that block of code in the main Firefox profile, which restricted access to just the downloads and publics folder. Whereas this included profile allows access to everything in your home folder. So if you enable Apparmor for Firefox and Ubuntu, it's not going to actually whitelist or blacklist directories in your home folder because of this included file. So what you have to do is actually comment out this owner section here. So you put a hash here in front, and then what you can do is change these. So this might be like /downloads and then /downloads /**, and you can put the directories you want to allow or restrict in here after you've commented that out. But by default, this will actually allow full access to everything in your home directory. So actually, by default, just enabling Apparmor for Firefox isn't going to give you the same results as using Firejail, and it's a lot more complicated to use because the amount of includes it has and how you have to override stuff. So that's the issue with Apparmor, is because of this include file, it's not going to give you the same sort of sense of security as maybe using Firejail. So that's the issue with using Apparmor, is that by default on Ubuntu, it's got these different profiles. As I said, it's got the main Firefox profile, which is shipped by Firefox, and then you've got this user-file files config file, which I think is shipped by Apparmor. So you've got two different bits shipped by totally different people. One's coming from Firefox, one's coming from Apparmor, and they don't work together properly because the one from Firefox restricts stuff, but then it includes this other file that allows everything in your home directory. So that's some notes on using Apparmor versus Firejail, and I put links to all this under the video. So that's Apparmor. Come back to Firejail. I said, first of all, what we did was we installed Firejail with sudo apt install firejail-profiles. Then what we did was we edited the Firejail config file, and we changed restricted network from yes to no. And the other thing is, I'll just show you where the Firefox profile is. I think is it user Firefox. So as you can see, when I search for Firefox, there are several different options, and I think they actually include different things. So got profile. So what you can actually do with this, what I remember is, as you can see here, what we've got is persistent local customizations include firefox.local and then globals.local. And in this main Firefox file, you've got sort of no blacklist, whitelist, stuff like that. And at the bottom include Firefox common profile. But this section here include Firefox.local. Basically, what that allows you to do is instead of editing the main Firefox config file here for Firejail, is you can create a Firefox.local file to add options in, and the way you do that is by creating a Firejail directory in your home.config folder, and in that folder, what you could do is create a file with the .local extension. So you could create Firefox .local and then put any options for Firejail for that application in there, rather than editing the main configuration file, which might get overwritten. So that's where the profiles are stored, and how you can make customizations and store them in your .config Firejail folder to override stuff. So as I said, we set up Firejail by editing the config and changing the restricted network from yes to no to allow us to use Firejail to put different applications into different network namespaces. And another advantage is that in the previous video I showed you how you can do the same thing by running a script, but the issue is you actually have to run the script as root, and what you can actually do is edit your sudo as file and set it up so that you don't have to enter your password when you run that script, because when you run scripts that change the network using like the IP command, you typically have to run them as sudo. So that's another advantage of Firejail, is that you don't have to edit your sudo as file and set up a command that you can that you'd normally have to run as root. So Firejail will actually let you put a different application in a sandbox into a different network namespace using the --ns option and the name of the network namespace, which I showed you was VPN. So let me just close that and come back across here and do this manually. So Firejail dash name equals Firefox, so we're naming the sandbox. We're dropping sort of all capabilities using ccomp and this ns option. So when I run that in the terminal, you'll see this is in the VPN namespace here. So that's how you could basically run Firefox manually from the command line in a sandbox. But as I said, what we wanted to do was basically create desktop entries for Firefox with the Firejail code in, so that what we could then do is basically use our application launcher, open Firefox or the VPN version. So it opens Firefox, and as you can see here, it's only giving access to downloads folder. And I can do the same thing, Firefox VPN, and that's launching it over the VPN connection again. You can see it's sandboxed. So the way we set that up was by creating two desktop entries. As I said, what we did was a terminal open here somewhere. User share applications firefox.desktop. So we copied that file to the desktop, and then once we did that, what we did was edited the file. So this is the regular one, and again we've got the name, and there'll be 3 versions this exec block of code for opening URL, for opening a new window, and for opening a private window. So search for the exec lines of code, and what we're doing is we're putting in the full path to Firejail, naming the the sandbox, and then you can put whatever options you want to use in here. Then Firefox sent you, and then there's the next one here, and that's exactly the same, except instead of %u, it's -new window. And the last one here, it's private window. That's the first desktop file we created. Let me just scroll back up here, and that's because of all the translations. That's why it's so big. And then what we did was created a separate file. So we basically just copy that file and call it something like Firefox-VPN or NetNS or whatever. And the first thing basically we're changing here is the name. So you can see Firefox web browser and Firefox VPN connection. So call it whatever you want. And then again, the option that we added, we changed the name, and we're using the --ns option equals name of the network namespace, and then it's basically the same. Firefox sent you, Firefox new window, and the last one is private window. So those are the desktop files that you create, and then basically put those in .local share applications. We've got those 2 desktop files there, and because this is called Firefox.desktop, it's going to take precedence of over the one in user share application. So this one basically, what that means is every time you launch Firefox, instead of just launching regular Firefox, it's going to run this desktop file with the Firejail code in, so that it will always launch Firefox in the sandbox, or this one here to launch it in the sandbox and over the VPN. So that was the other thing. Also, again, the magnet links. I originally had it in my bin directory. But what you need to do is have the link in user local bin, the magnet add, and again that's just a simple script that uses transmission remote to add a magnet link to transmission when you click the link in the browser. So those are basically the steps getting Firejail set up. And then say once you've done that, and create the desktop files, you can just launch Firefox and launch Firefox, but sandboxed. So you can also do that over the VPN connection, as I've showed you, and to create the local customizations. Let's say set for Firejail. So this is where all the profiles are stored for the different applications. As you can see, there's hundreds. Transmission, daemon, edit, and basically what you do is when you want to override any of these files, what you do is copy one of these files to your desktop, and then rename the extension from profile to .local, and then remove, and then basically start from fresh and put in any thing you want to override. So you then instead create the config Firejail folder, and as showed you here, I've got one for the transmission-daemon, which I've been trying. So what I found with this is, first of all, I wanted to whitelist my torrents completing and downloading directories, and then I had to add read and write access, and also get the web UI to work. I had to whitelist user share transmission web. So this would add those options when I start transmission using Firejail, but one issue is I haven't actually managed to get this to work when I put it in a different network namespace. So that's Firejail and Apparmor, and how you can set them up. Just come back to Apparmor. Again, Apparmor versus Firejail. Apparmor, as I said, much more complicated to set up. It also has multiple include files that are difficult to track down what they're doing, to override them. And again, to enable a profile, you have to remove a symbolic link. Then you have to reload the Apparmor profile, put it in a particular mode, so put it into enforce mode. You can then check the status. You can also change the profile mode to complain. As I showed you, you can then, to disable the profile, you then have to recreate a symbolic link, and then basically remove the profile from the database listing. and you can set different profiles to be in different namespaces using the -n option and the namespace. But the issue is you have to run all these commands as sudo. If you were wanting to use apparmor to put an application to different network namespace, you'd have to sort of unload the profile and reload a profile. So it's not really very easy to set up. You'd have to have some script that would sort of detect what's going on, which profile's loaded or not loaded. So it wouldn't be as easy to use apparmor to create desktop launchers to launch like Firefox, in a VPN where you can with Firejail. So that's why I gave up on apparmor, and also because of the issue of how by default it will use this user-files profile, which will allow access to everything in your home folder. So even if you enable apparmor for Firefox, by default it's not actually going to just show you the downloads folder. It will show everything in the home folder by default. So that's why I think Firejail wins in this little sort of competition, because it's easy to set up. You can set it up with desktop files so that you can launch particular applications, GUI applications, Firejailed, or in a different network namespace, also without using sudo or having to edit your sudo as file to create a command that will run as root without entering your password. So that's using Firejail on Firefox, and also, as I said, the other issue was getting transmission to work. So you can see there's transmission, and as I showed you, you can check the IP address, and you come across to the settings, come down here and search for magnet. You can then select a script to run to add magnet links to your torrent client. And if you're using GUI application, you might not run into this issue. They may just launch normally, but I found actually using scripts, they had to be in user local bin as opposed to the bin directory in your home folder. So that's some notes on Firejail and Firefox, and also using apparmor, and how you can actually basically sandbox stuff, and put your browser and your torrent client into a separate VPN network namespace. Check the IP address match; they're both in the same, running over the VPN, and also have your browser sandboxed, so that when you're browsing, you're a bit more secure. And also how you can get your magnet links to work for legal content, of course, in transmission or your other torrent client. So that's just all for now on Firejail and apparmor, and hope that helps.